Good morning, Mount Calvary. I am your Vicar Jacob. Thank you for joining us today, whether it's morning time or evening. We are thankful that you have taken a few minutes out of your day to spend some daily devotional time with us. As we continue going throughout Loved and Sent by Pastor Jeff Cloeter, which his book can be found in the Amazon link below. Otherwise, just continue following along with me. If you need to go back 3 weeks ago and see and get kind of caught up with where we are, that's okay too. If not, we're just going to keep chugging along. I know some of you have bought the book, and I hope that you are enjoying it. This is my third time going through the book, and every time I read it, I am amazed at his clarity on how Pastor Jeff writes, but also his clarity, but also how he connects with Christians, showing us what it means to be loved and what it means to be sent. And it's also, as we're going to learn today, a very good refresher for a lot of our Lutheran doctrine and things like that. So, last couple weeks, we talked about George. We talked about grace, how George has spent his entire life pushing Jesus off, pushing his grace off, but then even on his deathbed, Pastor Jeff asked George, he asked those simple questions of George, do you want Jesus? And George responded, yes. Yes, but I'm guilty, Pastor, because I have spent my entire life running away from Jesus. And now in the moment of need, now when I need him, now when I want him, is he there? And that's where Pastor begins to talk about grace. But today, and we're still going to continue talking about this grace, but today we're going to kind of put it on the back burner for now, and we're going to be talking about law and gospel. Pastor Jeff is going to refresh our memory a little bit. Maybe we need to go back to our confirmational days. If I was to ask you, if you could define law in one sentence, how would you define it? Maybe some of you are kind of forgetful, or maybe some of you knew it off the top of your head. Typically, the law can be described in three ways. It's seen as a curb, as a mirror, and as a guide. Those three ways. And Pastor Jeff talks about that in his book. But he also, I think we also sometimes forget that the law, if not broken, if that was possible, saves. If we were able to keep the law perfectly down to a T, then Jesus would have never had to, come. Jesus would have never had to die for us. Any of that wasn't because the law saves if kept. But as you know, because of our sinful nature, we cannot keep the law. And we fall short of it every single day, and we deserve death. And that is where the saving graces of the gospel comes into play. It's exciting stuff. It gets me pumped. It gets me excited. In fact, Pastor Jeff puts a quote in here by Winston Churchill, who once said, "A clear conscience is a sign of a fuzzy memory." A clear conscience is a sign of a fuzzy memory. Because Winston Churchill knew that we can't keep the law. We fall short every single day. We sin constantly. And, that's where the beauty of that mirror kind of comes into play, right? When we look into the mirror, we want to see our dirtiness. We want to see our imperfections. And if you're questioning, well, do I? Think about when you go to the doctor. And if the doctor would come into your room and say, Jacob, you're sick. Would I want the doctor to kind of sugarcoat it? Or what I want to tell him, or would I want to hear the reality? Would I want to hear the cold, hard truth? And I think most of us would agree we want the cold, hard truth, right? We want to know, why am I sick? What is happening? What are the consequences or whatnot of this disease? Tell me how it is. And Pastor Cloeter, he talks about that. And he gives us that view, that lens of looking at things through a law and through a gospel lens, reminding us that we recognize that we can't do it by ourselves. We know that Jesus has done it all. We admit to the toxic nature of our sin, and we look only to Jesus. We look only to Jesus for our help and for our salvation and for our peace. Even amidst a world that is messed up. That is messed up. I don't even have to tell you how messed up it is or give you examples. I'm sure, living in this world in this time, you can think of many reasons. So, thank you, Pastor Jeff, for kind of going over the law and gospel for us as we move into kind of this radical grace and what does this mean for us Christians.